So I'd like to officially say good morning to everyone. Welcome to our virtual coffee talk. This morning, my name is Sarah Hagee. I am the Executive Director here with the Electrical Association of Philadelphia. I'm joined by my colleague, Matt Divert, who's our Program Manager, and several speakers and presenters this morning who we're going to introduce here momentarily. First off, I would like to thank Billows Electric Supply for their generous sponsorship of today's session. They've been wonderful partners throughout the course of our virtual coffee talk series. So thank you, Billows. A few housekeeping items. Again, if you've been here before, you know the deal. We cannot see you, we cannot hear you, and we've done that by design because we are recording this session for future use. You are welcome and encouraged to submit questions today. You can do that real time using the chat feature. Schilly from Philly, who I'm going to introduce momentarily, is going to be monitoring that chat. In addition, of course, we're going to share today's recording and as well as the contact information for the presenters here today. So with that, I'm going to get right to it. It's my pleasure to introduce Schilly from Philly, who's from Locust Electrical Sales and is going to be our host for today. So with that, Schilly, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of Locust 2020. Schilly from Philly, broadcasting live from the Electrical Association of Philadelphia. Today, talking allied fittings, supply chain challenges, and innovative solutions. We have Atkore's Technical Sales Manager, Jeff Noce. Also with us is two-time steel fittings heavyweight champion, Eric Goldberg. And first up, Atkore Vice President of Electrical Sales, North Region, it's John McGrinder. Take it away, John.
Thank you, Gabe. Good morning, everyone. Okay, good morning. Quick agenda and what we're going to cover today for the next 30-40 minutes. I'm going to cover a couple of slides. Who is Atkore? Then I'll turn it over to Eric Goldberg to talk about allied fittings, some of the challenges with today's market. Jeff Noce will step in then and do a brief product line overview of the allied fittings, from super fittings down to our Liquidtight connector to flex connectors and other innovations we have in place now at the present time and down the road. And then at the end, we'll turn it over to any support and help needed as we wrap up with any questions. So about Atkore, in 2019, we finished net sales of $1.9 billion. We have over 4,000 employees globally, 66 manufacturing and distribution facilities in 8 countries. And we hold a leading market position in many product categories, from steel conduit, PVC conduit, metal clad cable, metal framing products, and cable tray and wire basket, which the Coke brand, as you may know, is manufactured right here in the Philadelphia market, Northeast Philadelphia. I may have a Chicago background on my computer, but I reside in the Chester County area. So I've been in the electrical business for 32 years and been in Pennsylvania all that time. So more to the fitting side of things with Eric and the allied fittings. You know, we offer a wide range of products through distribution and OEM customers via a single integrated platform to get product to the customer quicker. We've got a strong reputation, which Eric will talk to, as far as an industry leader in quality, availability, and delivery, as well as value and innovation. So innovation is a big piece of Atkore and our future vision as far as our strategy deployment process. So you'll continue to see Atkore implement and come out with new products across all our brands, not just allied fittings, to become a thought leadership solutions provider moving into the future. Atkore is organized into 2 business units, as you can see on the top pie chart. The larger being the electrical raceway, which accounts for 75% of the spend. And the other piece of the pie is the mechanical products and solutions, which is 25%, more of the mechanical staff side of the business, which you may or may not be aware of. You know, we also have a we are a centric US player with diverse end markets, from OEM, you know, retrofit, new construction, and international, which makes up the pie there on the bottom. So when we talk about electrical raceway, right, that's been a term we've used here at Atkore for the past 7 years. You know, Atkore has a very comprehensive electrical raceway product portfolio, which provides a variety of solutions for a range of applications, leading to significant labor efficiencies and install costs, and helping the customer save from source to outlet. And as you can see to the left here, those products encompass PVC conduit, steel conduit, armor clad cable, flexible liquid tight and conduit, and cable tray and cable ladder. So all these products are also housed in our Philadelphia distribution center. So please keep that in mind. We have a facility right aside of the Coke facility in Northeast Philadelphia that has every Atkore brand housed in that facility. We talk about Atkore's differentiated go-to market strategy and product offering. We have a best-in-class product quality, enhanced market coverage. This is pretty impressive. Whether it's your local agent like Locust or our technical sales manager, Jeff Noce, who's on the call today, we also have regional technical specialists. We actually have 3 people now, in addition to Jeff and the team here, that can help come to market to help you in your day-to-day efforts. We have a regional tech specialist for AFC, for COPE, and for our prefab division, ACS Unifab. So, and we also have a great co-loading capability out of the Philadelphia distribution center, which allows multiple products to ship on one flatbed out to the job site or to a customer, okay? And with that, we'll turn it over to Eric Goldberg. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to spend a little bit of time with us. We know it's crazy, and I'm going to get into a little bit of how crazy it is underneath the curtain and behind the scenes. So you're looking at a picture of our new Atkore Allied Tube and Conduit fittings catalog. It's just been released probably in the last 60 days or so. If you don't have one, contact Schilly from Philly or contact Billows, and they'll contact Schilly from Philly, and we will get you one. It's also available for download on our website, and we'll cover that detail a little bit later. Next slide, please. All right, so I'm not going to read this eye chart, but I do want to let you know where Allied Fittings came from, because you're probably scratching your head wondering who the heck is Allied Fittings. So when Atkore made an acquisition of a fittings company some years back, they launched a brand called Concore, which enabled us to get some traction in the market. But we went out, we did a lot of voice of customer, and decision was made to basically scrap the Concore brand and go with the Allied brand as a name that's more widely recognized. You know, brand building is a very difficult, tough business. And when you got something like Allied to hang your hat on, that's been around for roughly 70 years, customer positives are through the roof. It's just crazy not to, tie your wagon to that. But let me go into where this business came from. And if you're over 50, you'll probably recognize the name, but there was a company called Atkore that was a dominant player in the fittings business for almost 80 years. And they started out in the Northeast, and they got into financial difficulties in the late 70s, early 80s, and wound up disappearing on the sands of time, if you will. But they had a very, very creative designer, a guy named Sammy Shemtov, who had passion for fittings and for finding better ways of doing things in the electrical industry. And so Sammy took his passion when Atkore went away and started out on his own, came up with designs. But at the time, as basically a one-man band, he did not have the capital to buy equipment, establish a factory here in the US, et cetera, et cetera. So before it became the sexy thing for companies to do, to move things overseas, he actually went over to Asia and partnered with different factories to produce his products, because that was his way for minimal capital to be able to get into the business. So it wasn't like the business started here and ran. It was basically birthed over there. So the company that he started was called SCI, Steel Components Inc. And you probably never heard of them either. And the reason is they never sold to distribution or to contractors. They were a sub-supplier to every big name you've heard of in the fittings business for decades. So whether you know it or not, you've used these fittings. They've just come in another box. So it's not like we popped up out of the ground overnight, but there's just a long, long history of understanding, knowledge, realizing customer pain points and looking for better ways to get things done. And so that's really, the biography, if you will, the background story to Allied Fittings. Next slide, please. All right, so what we're here to talk about that I think has a lot of interest is today's market challenges. What's going on? Why are things taking so long? Why is it costing so much? And literally, it is a story that is changing day by day, minute by minute. And I will share with you things that have happened up until the last minute last night. So, but the two drivers of all this are transportation and metals prices. And these charts that you see over on your right are the actual charts for those particular commodities, be it aluminum, copper, iron ore for the last 12 months. And you see that line is only going one way. There's a popular phrase now that I never heard before called the melting up, which I guess with metals that's makes a lot more sense. So yeah, the prices have been melting up, and it doesn't look like there's relief in sight, although there may be some stabilization. But a lot of that is dependent on supply and demand, which is your basic foundation of all economics. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. And of course, transportation, there's just challenges literally every inch of the journey. Next slide, please. All right, so in looking at metals, in what our business is involved in, the primary drivers are aluminum and more so steel. And as I used the phrase before, the prices are melting up. So aluminum has increased 62%. Iron ore has increased 50%, but it's flattened recently. And that's actually not a good sign. And steel's increased 94% since October. And that doesn't seem to be abating. So let me back myself up. So why is the fact that iron ore, the price flattening, not a good sign? The simple truth is this: China has been trying to control production of steel, and so the way they've done that is they've put tremendous tariffs on iron ore coming in. And so with that, basically it became uneconomical for some people to produce steel. So it decreased capacity, which increased the price of steel, which was their goal. And then literally everyone in the world follows suit. So India raised their prices, US producers raised their prices, et cetera. There's some news on that front that just came out yesterday that China was eliminating their tariff on iron ore, but that came wrapped in a little bit of bad news that I'll save for later. Please don't think of me of Debbie Downer or the Black Angel, but there's just not a lot of sunshine in all this information. So I'm just reporting the news. I'm not making it. So what's driving all this is global demand, and there's two pieces to it. There's consumption. Basically going back to the beginning of the pandemic, people were sitting home and they decided, gee, I need better home office furniture. Gee, I need some home exercise equipment, and that created increased demand at a time when, because of COVID, there was less labor to meet that demand, both from manufacturing and transportation standpoint. So that was the beginning of the tidal wave, if you will. And so what we've seen now is that there's legitimate consumption going on. Thank goodness for us, and I think I could probably say us all, that other than some nervous weeks at the beginning of the pandemic, the electrical industry has been, pretty healthy through all this. So consumption was steady, and it's actually been increasing at a good clip. And also, I think there's definitely some hedging going on where distributors may have kept a couple months inventory, and maybe they're keeping a couple of months inventory now, which just adds to the demand side, and the whole thing spirals. So we talked to, or I already talked to a little bit about China limiting steel production. The other driver is automotive is coming back online, and they are a big consumer of steel, so their demand is now factoring in. So from the standpoint of if you're trying to run a steel fittings business, you want to try to have stability in your pricing, and that's a virtual impossibility right now. What's going on is typically, a factory would place forward orders with a steel mill, either 3 months, 6 months in advance, commit to so many tons at such and such a price. Months and months ago, the mills basically canceled all forward orders, and it was a spot market where they would set a price for the day, and you could take it or leave it, because there was someone standing behind you that if you didn't want to pay the price, that would take it. Well, now it's almost become an auction environment. And again, if you don't want to pay the auction price, there's someone behind you that will take it. So it's just a very difficult environment for creating any type of cost containment. And the outlook is really, it could be at least 6 months before we see a leveling. And I'll give you Eric's editorial comment on that. When someone tells me it's 6 months, that's code for, I really don't know what the heck I'm talking about. The reason I have it in the slide is there is new capacity for steel production that people are saying they are going to put in place, that, if we can get more production capacity, that shifts the supply demand curve a little bit more favorably towards stability. So let's wait and see what happens, but hopefully there's some relief in sight as we get toward the end of this year. So let's talk to the transportation issue. But let me speak to what you're looking at here first, which is the price of hot rolled steel coil. So what you can see is in November, it was $699 a ton, and it's literally almost double that. And I made this chart a week ago. It's probably double that today. So again, that's the environment for metals. Transportation is a whole nother saga, and literally every step in the journey now is a challenge. And let me kind of lay that out for you in gory detail. What we are having to do once we get product produced, regardless of metal prices, is get containers to ship them in. And there is a global shortage of containers because a bunch of them are sitting here empty in the US. And I believe a lot of that is just due to the fact that they're offloading ships. They're not loading back on empties for them to bring back to Asia. And that's because if you go back about 3 slides, let me ask you. Okay, right there. So that picture in the top left corner is the Port of Los Angeles, and all those things you see in the water are barges waiting to be unloaded. And it's not just the Port of Los Angeles that has that kind of backup. I mention them specifically because they are the largest port in the US. And they typically had about a 3-day wait for barges to unload. That expanded at one point to 13 days. So literally material would be sitting in the water floating for 2 weeks before they'd even attempt to offload it. That time has come down to about 8 to 9 days right now. Not great, but an improvement. And part of the challenge is this. Not only are more goods trying to get in, but the container carriers themselves are larger than they ever have been. So the statistics out of Los Angeles are, in the last several months, they've unloaded 38% more vessels, but they've also unloaded 46% more containers. So you have all this stuff coming in now because you have bigger ships, but you don't have bigger warehouses and bigger facilities for holding all these goods. So it used to be things could flow in and out of the port fairly easily. Now there's a wait time that can be anywhere from a week to 3 weeks. Part of it is just getting through the backlog of goods that are in queue in front of it. The other part of it is there's just a lack of trucks here in the US, believe it or not. So it's a challenge to get your stuff on the ship. It's a challenge to get your stuff off the ship. It's a challenge to get it from the port to the warehouse, which we can then get it out to the distributor to use. So literally every step of the way, we come up with more and more obstacles. So along with those difficulties, though, there's another side to the equation, if you will, and it goes back to the supply-demand curve. So you have all this cargo coming in, and there's a limited supply of transportation resources. And so what's that going to do to the price? Well, let me tell you what it's done to the price. So typically, to transport a 40-foot container of metal fittings, which is a pretty heavy container because it goes by weight and cube, that cost would run around $4,000 historically. Getting a container on a vessel has also gone to an auction environment, and we've been paying typically double that. So just shy of $8,000 to bring over a container. And then I received notification last week that there's some new surcharge on containers of $1,000 a piece on top of it. So that's adding into that whole cost equation, along with the metal prices, is just the fact that transportation literally is more than doubled in the last 9 months. So in terms of outlook, we can go back to, let's advance 2 slides. So in terms of outlook, what we're looking at is a couple things that aren't necessarily bright lights out there on the horizon. Again, I don't want to be painted as Debbie Downer, but they've just really started to talk about it on the news here. And I've been tracking it for several months now, is the COVID situation in India. And many of the electrical fittings especially come in from either India or China, India being the bigger supplier now for most because of the tariffs Trump put in place. We just, as a side note, don't do very much with India because of our history of, establishing relationships in China. But India is definitely the main supplier to the U.S. market for electrical fittings. I checked this morning, and their number of COVID cases yesterday was just under 372,000 new cases in a day. And that number has been climbing. I've been tracking it since it was at 50,000 about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't remember exactly, but it's just been going up and up and up and up astronomically. I am not an expert on international politics, but what I believe to be the situation is this. India was very successful early on, even though they're the third world, and they don't have the infrastructure like the US has, but they had a very, very limited number of cases, very, very limited number of fatalities early on when we were going through that first wave. And that was because the country went on a hard lockdown for 2 months. So when they came out of lockdown, much like we did here, the federal government had to pump money into the economy, basically to prime the pump to get things going. Much like we had, I forgot what the package was called, where we pumped $1 trillion into the economy to get things going. So now they're staring down the face of another lockdown, and the government there doesn't have the money to prime the pump again if they lock it down. So they're stuck with kind of an untenable position of, do we let the disease run to try to get to herd immunity, or do we lock down and spin the country into depression? So that's the Sophie's choice, you will, they're faced with there. And I guess time will tell, which path they ultimately choose to go down, but it's not a pretty picture there. And just real quick to finish up, because I probably took a little more time than I should. Situation in China, this just came out yesterday at the end of the day, which was first thing in the morning there, is they're removing a subsidy that the government gave steel producers of 13%. So if you were, John Smith Electrical Fittings of Shanghai, the government rebated you 13% of everything you shipped to the US. They've taken that away effective May 1, which means your costs are now up 13% because your government rebate's gone. Now, that on the surface is bad news because they're going to try to push that increase through. But in thinking about it, and again, I'm not an expert on international affairs, but I've been forced to immerse myself in it. It could be a play to the Biden administration to get them to remove the 25% Trump tariff, saying, hey, we're opening up trade to be fair and on an even playing field. And if that's the case, then that'll be a net benefit to you in terms of prices starting to come down. So time will tell. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. You probably actually got a nickel for it, but I appreciate your time. We'll turn it over to Jeff Noce now.
All right, thank you, Eric, and great job. My name is Jeff Noce, and I'm the Northeast Regional Technical Sales Manager for Atkore. I am responsible for covering the electrical brands for all the different Atkore product lines. Today, we just wanted to talk to you, and I know we're kind of running a little behind, but just wanted to give you an overview on our fittings line. And I'm going to just jump right into it. This first slide, I know there's a lot going on, but the emphasis of this slide is just to show you that we are a true full line fittings manufacturer. So we go from soup to nuts on this product line, and we can cover all of your needs. Next slide, please. One of the areas that where we are truly a leader, and one of the things that's nice working for Atkore is their investment into innovation and innovation into new products. How do we make products more labor savings and more of a benefit to our end customers? And the Super Quick Fittings product line is a great example of this. And we're going to run through this quickly, but we've got basically a line of couplings and connectors, and they are rain tight, concrete tight, and they go up to 5-inch for a heavy product for heavy projects. Next slide, please. The universal 3-piece super coupling. This product's nice because it replaces that old Ericsson. And what's nice about it, when you had the Ericsson, you'd have to take it apart, put everything together. This is 3-piece, and there's no assembly required. It comes fully assembled, and it's good for both threaded and unthreaded product. And it eliminates the need for having to thread pipe in the field. So if you're going from a threaded to unthreaded, you don't have to do any threading there. You're just going to put it all in, and you're going to see this in the video, and you're going to lock it in, and you're going to be good to go. Next slide, please. Again, the 5-piece super coupling, again, same features. What it does, though, is it replaces a lot of existing couplings where you've got to take everything apart. Major time saver. And again, it eliminates field threading, and you're going to see this in the video. But what's nice about this is it's UL listed, whether it's with rigid, EMT, aluminum, and even PVC pipe. So this product, it's a great thing to have it's a great product to have in your van. You run into certain situations, instead of having it's a great utility product to keep on board. Next slide. And again, the super connector. Again, this is a great product. Again, you're going from, it's like a conduit hub, but on steroids. Great utility part for the truck. This is meant to be a job site solution right here. So it's allowing you to take that rigid IMC, PVC, EMT, and whether it's threaded or unthreaded, and allowing you to go right into the panel box. Next slide. Okay, Matt, if we could cue up the video. We'll let everybody see just how easy this goes together. So we could go back to the presentation. Again, what you're seeing there is an innovative product that is going to save you in excess of 30% labor savings. If we can go to the next slide. There we go. Thank you. The next slide is just showing you another innovative product we have. I know everybody has a line of Liquidtight connectors, but Atkore has a very unique line. And what you'll see on the left-hand side of this, or the right-hand side of the screen, is all your typical steps you have to go through when installing the everyday Liquidtight fitting. You've got 5 steps you got to walk through. Again, with Atkore, we've come up with a unique product, or I'm sorry, a unique design that allows you to just simply insert the conduit and tighten down. 1 step replaces 5, and you're not going to be able to pull that out. So we have a video to show this, but again, this is just another example of where we're going with our fittings to help make your life a lot easier. If we could cue up the video. Great, thank you, Matt. If we can, John, if we can go back, okay, if we can advance the slide. All right, again, sticking with our innovative fittings, we're talking about our quick lock line of MC connectors. This is the one connector where you're going to have the widest range in the industry. It's going to accommodate all the way from 14.2 up to 8.2. And it's single ponent construction. And what's nice is, again, you're not going to have loose parts floating around in the box when you get this. It's going to come in the package, all ready to just have you insert the cabling and tighten down, and you're good to go. Next slide, please. All right, more of our Doublebite MC connectors. And what I want to focus on is, again, we have the saddle grip, and there's 2 places of contact that are going to come down and clamp on the MC cable, giving you, again, a more secure connection. And again, what's nice about this fitting, one fitting accommodates almost 99% of all our luminary cable designs. If I can go to the next slide, please. And again, I know this is going to be kind of an eye chart, as we say, but again, the emphasis here is that we have 2 connectors that can cover you, cover the widest range in the industry of MC cabling on with the luminary cable going from 14.2 to 10.3. We have the QL50. And we have the QL50DS, which is a snap-in connector, no lock nut needed, whereas the other of the QL50 would have the lock nut. So whichever is your fancy, we've got those accommodated as well. Next slide, please. One of my favorite fittings here is our space saver connections. When you look at this, I just want you to focus at that picture in the middle. You're doing any renovation work, that's typical. You have a junction box that's a rat's nest. When you look at the picture now on the left, this is our traditional way of doing it. You're coming in with a connector and you've got a lock nut and you're eating up a lot of the real estate inside that box. Whereas if you look at the picture on the right, and what you'll see here is the lock nut itself will actually screw into the fitting and be flush with the box, leaving you with a significant amount more of real estate within that box. So make it easier for you to wire up different things. Next slide, please. All right, in our combination lock nut bushing. What's nice here is it's a problem solver on the job site. A lot of times you get caught with a short thread. This allows you to just install this again. You're going to have a nice flush fitting, and it allows you to extend the threads. So you're going to be able to make that connection and move on. Again, job site solution. All right. And if you want, you can follow us. And if you go to our website, which you see here on the screen, we do have, as Eric mentioned earlier, the catalog in PDF form that can be downloaded, as well as some of our videos that you saw on the presentation today as well. Next. And again, we mentioned this. We have our all new catalog. And we have specialty catalogs as well. So again, we're a full line manufacturer, and we invest in making our products with a greater deal of labor savings for you. That's how we distinguish ourselves. John, if you want to take it from here.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Eric, if you want to speak to the contact information here moving forward.
Sure. There's my contact information. If you want to reach out, get a hold of me. You have an idea or a problem I'd like to talk about. Of course, locally, you have Gabe and the folks from Locust, as well as Jeff is there as the feet in the street, the guy who can get to you quickly and help you with your problems from a customer service standpoint. Gail is the contact for Allied Fittings. That's going to be transitioning in a month or so. Erica is actually the contact for all things Atkore, so she can help with fittings as well. So I'd recommend, while we're transitioning, Eric is probably the contact you'd want to remember in this. Next. Well, I said it before, thank you. We really appreciate the time. And I'll throw it back over to Gabe.
Sarah, I don't see anything else in the chat box here. I guess we can wait another few seconds and see
Yeah,
if anyone else has any questions. I appreciate everyone jumping in. Thank you, everyone.
I'd like to thank you all. I mean, this was very informative. I certainly learned a lot, and I come from the waterworks industry prior, so hearing about fittings is like the old days to me. But everyone, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I know it's early in the morning, still probably having your coffee. If not, we will go ahead and make sure that everyone here has contact information, both for Locust and Atkore. I'm sure you all know how to reach Billows. If you have any questions in terms of getting the product, you can certainly reach out to your local Billows rep. And with that being said, I don't see any questions. So Schilly, thank you so much. I appreciate you bringing Atkore and Allied to us and sharing some really valuable information. Jeff, John, Eric, we greatly appreciate your time. Eric, I think you have the award for very early morning this morning. So if there are no other questions, I think we'll call it a day and say thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, Sarah. There you have it for this
Thank you,
edition of
Sarah.
Locust 2020, Schilly from Philly, Electrical Association of Philadelphia, and Allied Fittings, bringing clarity to the electrical industry.